that, we believe that understanding the tech policy landscape across the world is absolutely crucial. We want the Atlas to be the go-to website for finding tech policy. As countries continue to put out new and diverse ways to regulate tech, keeping track of them, or honestly, even trying to find them, can become increasingly difficult. I don't know about you, but I can get very frustrated when I can't navigate a government's website to find the legislation I want to use for my research. With this Atlas, we want to get rid of that frustration, and I'm going to explain how we do that in just a moment. If researchers or people in this room can't access documents they need for their research, it inhibits the identification of positive and negative trends, the conduct of evidence-based independent research, and the development of actionable advice to government and industry. We created the Atlas in conjunction with the University College of London's Refrain program and supported by the Tech for Good Institutes Singapore and Schmidt Futures. So let me introduce you now to the Atlas. It is a world first and open source database because of the breadth and depth of policies that it captures. The Atlas currently holds over 2,000 tech policies from 36 jurisdictions and is set to expand to 193 in the coming months. So definitely keep watching this space. The little icons on the map show you how many tech policies have been found for each country, which can give a really good quick sense check as to who's particularly active in tech policy space. By clicking on a country, we are brought down to a list of all the regulation that we have captured for it. We can also group policies by the regulation category here. We can see now the 15 different categories that we have sorted all the policies into. Now, I know what you're wondering is how exactly we define these policy categories. And I can show you by scrolling up to the top of the page and clicking on the Learn More About the Atlas icon here, it brings us to this pop-up, which explains the definitions of each policy category and policy type. We know that every jurisdiction and even sometimes every researcher has different definitions for each of these policies, policy categories and types. So we've developed these guidelines to explain the Atlas's rationale for categorization. By going back down and clicking on a category, we can expand the list to see what regulation has been created in this space from different countries all over the world. Now what I'm going to do is just show you some examples of how you can use the database to search for particular policies and legislation. So in the first example, I'll show you how the free text search bar works. Using this can be particularly useful if you're looking for specific policies or keywords relating to policies. For example, if you were doing research on the term fake news in global policy, it can be as simple as typing that into the search bar. Then there you can see the results are filtered to show policies from different jurisdictions around the world that have fake news in their title. This type of research can be particularly useful to see how specific key terms have influenced jurisdictions to create new policies. Of course, if there is a specific policy you're looking for, you can also use the free text search bar to find that. For example, if I was looking for Canada's Elections Modernisation Act, I can start by typing it into the free text search bar to filter down the results to find it here. Another useful way to filter results is by using the filters at the top of the page here. We can click on artificial intelligence, for example, to see all the regulations that countries have made about artificial intelligence. We can further narrow down the results by clicking on a different government. For example, we can click on the European Union, and now we can see all the artificial intelligence policies that the European Union has put out. By clicking on a record, a pop-up shows showing 3 different links. One to the source link, one to the ANU repository, and one to the Internet Archive. The reason for these 3 links is to ensure that the records will not get out of date. We've all used databases like this before, and there's nothing more frustrating than when the links are broken. So what we've done is fix that problem by using the Internet Archive. We have a link to the Internet Archive, which ensures that a functioning link of the web page at the point in time in which it was added to the atlas is always there. We also have the ANU library link, which hosts the PDF of the policy for easy download, and also for full copyright compliance. One other way to filter through the atlas is by using policy types. This type of filter can be particularly useful for comparative research. For example, if I was trying to look at cybersecurity policies within Quad countries, I can first go to all the governments and click on the Quad countries, including Australia, India, Japan, and the United States. And then I can go into the categories and click on cybersecurity. Now we see all the different legislation that these countries have put out regarding cybersecurity. As this list can be quite long and very hard to deal with, we can further narrow down the result by using our policy types. So for this example, I'm going to go look at all the strategy that these Quad countries have put out relating to cybersecurity. Now we get a much more nuanced search result, which will allow you to quickly find and compare the Quad country strategy on cybersecurity. You can also do a search for superseded and repealed documents, which are documents that are older and no longer in force. In the updates to the atlas later, we will group all these related records together. Clicking on an individual record once again shows us the pop-up with all the links. At the bottom of the card, there is a link to correct or add to record. By clicking on that link, we get sent to our Make a Contribution page. We can't emphasize this point enough. We know that there are things in this atlas that we've either missed or are somewhat incorrect. No one knows your jurisdiction as well as you do, and that's why we want to ask for your help. We rely on you to spread the word that the database exists, and we've also made it as easy as possible for you to correct to it and make contributions for the countries that you know best. As we move down the page, contributors can click through the drop-down menu and type in answers to each of the questions. While most of it is optional, we do encourage contributors to include at least the URL link to the policy to make it easier for the researchers to verify and find the correct policy. These entries are then verified by researchers, and we then upload it into the atlas. So we've created this public database of global tech policy, strategy, legislation, and regulation, and we want it to become the go-to tool for independent researchers like you and resource-constrained governments. The atlas is a tool. It will facilitate research into the effectiveness of different approaches to tech policy and regulation, best practices, and opportunities for harmonization. This type of research will drive more nuanced tech policy, and in turn, will help shape better technology for the long-term benefit of humanity. We hope that you not only enjoy this presentation, but you go to the atlas yourself to play around with the database and see what you can uncover. And we also want to make a request. Please, if you can contribute, send it through to us. And please help us spread the word that this atlas exists. This tool is only as useful as you make it out to be. And with the help and support of this community, we can ensure that it stays as useful as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanvi. And would you believe that this is the first presentation that Tanvi has done in her capacity as a professional working at the Tech Policy Design Centre? So extra congratulations. Absolute pro. And I bet if I hadn't said that, everyone would think you've been at it for years. So congratulations, Tanvi. And also thank you for all of the work and effort that she's put into this. We now have time for questions, if people have questions, and we've got one here.
Hi, my name is Temi from Bond University. I'm well done on this. This is a very good tool, and I can tell you for free that we've also been using it in my capacity as a researcher and as a university as well. So kudos. So one observation that I wanted to make is, yes, there's the function for people to make contributions, but you would also discover that, except you're working in that space, most people maybe outside of this event now might forget And then maybe whenever they see like the updates online, then they would remember, oh, I'm from this jurisdiction. Maybe I should go into the atlas to see if any information is up to date. So my question is, your website, does it have any algorithm built into it that, apart from the contributions that individuals can make, does it have any algorithm that sort of like scrape the internet to sort of prompt you of new updates from like the 36 jurisdictions that you've mentioned that you have these sources? So I give one example. I'm very concerned with Nigeria because that's my home country, and I see that the data protection law from Nigeria is not up to date. So there's a bill 2022, but there's actually a substantive act that got passed like 2 months ago, June, but that hasn't been updated. Of course, I'm going to go and make that contribution, but do you have any algorithm that can sort of like scrape the internet and prompt you?
Yeah. So we don't have any algorithm on the website that scrapes the internet for new policies. We probably wouldn't scrape the internet either, just because it's a bit of
Legalities.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. But what we do is we have a couple of researchers working on this and looking at new policies from government websites every week, really, and continuously updated. We're currently in the process of migrating a whole bunch of policies into the Atlas, which is why we're expanding from 36 to 193. And once that process is done, we can take another stock take to kind of continuously update it on a more regular schedule. That's how we're tackling this problem right now. But we do definitely see that it can get out of date very quickly, which is why we thrive on contributions.
And we also, as part of the expansion and the update, will be looking at how we can automate those updates and also add functionality for people to be able to have updates, so you can subscribe to updates. So if you're interested in Nigeria, you can actually be updated. But that's things that will come in the next iterations of the Atlas. Any other questions? One more question, and over here as well.
I'm happy to see this atlas. I'm from Mongolia, and my question is also very similar to this, Mr. So I've seen, unfortunately, there is nothing on the Mongolian map, zero. So for me personally, I'm really willing to contribute. But I have a question like, how do you verify he or she, somebody, if it's available to contribute? He or she may add something different or fake or wrong. So how do you verify that person is, strong enough or qualified enough to do the correct information?
Yeah,
that's a great question. We're going to take one more, Tambi, before you answer so that we finish on time. So I'm just going to duck over here.
Hi, everyone. Jana Schmitz from Auda. I absolutely love the Tech Atlas and I use it every time. The first time I started using it, I thought, oh, this is a high quality Wikipedia for tech policy and regulation related matters. But I'm wondering, and this is a question for all of you here in the audience, how can we make sure that policymakers and regulators are paying attention to this before they put out government consultations or exposure drafts? Because I think this whole register basically can already address so many regulatory and policy questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so what I think I'll do is I'll answer the question about how we verify it, but I'll leave Johanna to talk more about the government side of that. So in terms of verifying our policies, what our website does is when you make a contribution on this page, it goes to the back end of our website and we see every contribution that's made. We don't verify the person as such, but we do verify the legislation or the link that they're sending through to see that if it's useful, if it's reliable, and if we should include it to the Atlas. And then it's a simple process of us updating our back end to include the policy. So nothing is an automatic update. We always verify and make sure that we've got the facts before we do it.
And on the question of how do we bring it to the attention of governments, this is something that we've spoken to the Australian government about. We know that many different departments are regularly using the Atlas. So really this is a call and a request for everyone here in the room. We don't have that type of conversation with governments in all of the jurisdictions that are represented here. And I think I think I heard 68 different jurisdictions, economies represented at this conference. And so we really ask you to help us to bring this tool to the attention of your governments and your jurisdictions, your regulators and researchers, because really this type of tool is only as useful as the people that are using it and engaging with it. And we didn't build this for us. We built this tool for the community. And we really want it to be something that it isn't the Tech Policy Design Centre's atlas, it is the community and a resource for all of us to be using. I've been told we have time for one more question. If anyone has a question, here.
Hi, awesome work. I think that particularly for a lot of my colleagues who aren't sort of in the law space, it's going to be really useful. My question was whether, and sorry if I missed it, but there's any plans, or whether currently you can search by sort of tags or things like that, or whether there's any plans to do so. So for example, with the fake news kind of example that you gave, it shows things that are, you know, where that's included actually in the legislation itself or the document itself. But I was wondering if there were plans for like, you know, misinfo to be sort of tagged with the fake news things and vice versa, kind of similar word stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So the current way that we've tagged it is not so much with a free text search, but with our categories and policy tags. And the next iteration, so right now we're limited in the sense that we only tag one policy with one category. So each record only has one tag. But in the next iteration, we want to expand those kind of tags because we are very aware that there are some legislations or policies that exist in different categories. So when that happens, when you do like a free text search for fake news, you should be able to see the different places that it's tagged. Okay. All right.
And that update and launch will be live in October. So it's coming, we're literally in the process of building it. And Tanvi and I were just saying we're working with the designers on the next iteration. And we're like, oh gosh, we wish we could present the new iteration because it's even better. But you know, this is pretty amazing as well. There was some other questions, but we'll take those directly with you after. I'm very conscious that there are 2 presentations following us, and we're going to stick to time and also allow those following enough time to set up for their presentation. So thank you very much. Please do help us spread the word. There's the cards on the table. We also have a stack here if you want to take them and hand them out. Please do, and please, there's all of our contact details on the atlas, so please don't be shy and help us build this tool and make it even better. We welcome your suggestions in how we can evolve it. Thank you, and thank you, Tanvi.
I'll do a quick announcement telling them if they have questions, we'll also send it to you. If there's any questions for the showcase that just happened, you can also go to the comment.aprigf.asia. Each session in this meeting has a little paragraph. Put your comments, put your questions in there, and we will make sure that the organizers will receive them. This is the only one.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we can start now. Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, this is the second presentation in the showcase. My name is Elanto Wijoyono. I'm from Combined Resource Institution, an NGO in Indonesia. My organization located in Yogyakarta in Java Island. Different city if you compare with Jakarta, the name is similar actually. And for this session, will not show you like a demo or demo apps or maybe a website simulation, something like that. But actually, this presentation also related with the information system, but more focused on the context of the village development in Indonesia. So I will give you some background information and also some good or maybe bad practices in Indonesia regarding the initiative to develop information system by the local government and also by the village government in collaboration or with the cooperation with the multi stakeholders, something like that. So, okay, next slide, please. Yeah. Oh, we don't. Oh, yeah, this way. Thank you. So, I would like to discuss about this context of our program, my organization program, about regarding the data justice issues, because right now the process of data collecting program, especially in the country like Indonesia, when a lot of data collecting program conducted by the ministries, for example, for the social protection program, very massive, extensive as well. And in these recent years, the methods and also the tools for collecting the data now become more automatic, online or web-based, and also more massive as well. And I believe that you already knew about the concept of datafication. Is a very interesting topic to discuss when the impact of the datafication become very interesting discussion in many areas or many sectors. But the discussion may be still more focused on the conceptual or maybe in the scientific aspect, but we need more example actually how the concept of datafication and also the data justice as the impact of this datafication implementation can be learned based on implementation in the real activities. So when we talk about the village information system in Indonesia, we will learn about the term of data justice, but also the context of data injustice that could happen in the process of the implementation of the data collection program. So the data justice framework will refers to the research formulated by Richard Hicks. Maybe you also already knew about him. And there are some principles about data justice that we can use as the basic principle to analyze the process and also the result of the datafication. For example, also in the implementation of village information system in Indonesia. And based on this principle, actually, we can learn that in each principle, we can see the context in the implementation of the data collection program in Indonesia. For example, from the procedure data justice, the first one, the first point, in this principle, actually, we can analyze the information value chain model. We can see here in the center of this scheme when the data collected from certain sources, for example, from the field in the village level, and in the midstream when the information based on the data that already collected can be published or visualized, like in the GIS website or something like that. And the downstream in the center of the information value chain, we can see how the information that already collected and already analyzed by the government agency, for example, can be used for decision making, something like that. And in every principle, actually, will have a more specific more specific point that we can use as a basis for the analysis whether the village information system can fulfill the principle of data justice or not. But I will not explain one by one too much time, and I believe that you also can see a lot of paper and research from many scholars about this principle. But I would like to emphasize that this theoretical framework still open to discuss with you all, and also maybe in the next future, that the process of data collection program in the local and also in the village level very important. So right now, the datafication also give a lot of impacts regarding the process of the development planning, because more data collected, but we cannot guarantee that those data will be analyzed and will be used for the decision making. So the concern, we can discuss more later about this benefit of the datafication. For example, like in the village information system implementation program, how the datafication also can give a negative impact. You can, I mentioned before about the data injustice, for example. So this include the surveillance of and also the loss of privacy, the capture of development gains by private corporation, and so on. So in the context of Indonesia, we have, right now we have 34 provinces and also more than 80,000 villages in urban area and also in the rural area. And from 270 million inhabitants in Indonesia, 25 million of them are below the poverty line. And most of them, from 25 million people, become the target of the data collecting program, the priority target, the main target of data collecting program conducted by the ministries, by the government agencies for the social protection program. And this scheme actually regularly happens every year, and more data collected, but actually the impact of the data analysis based on the data that already collected with many programs still have a lot of problem because some principle about the impact of the datafication not so clear anymore. Okay, then. Yeah, and this is the simple scheme how the data for the development in Indonesia collected. You can see in the upper level, the ministry and also the national institution, maybe some of the representative from the ministry from Indonesia also here right now. Every year, many ministries and also government agency in the national level, they conducted a lot of data collection program. In some program, they have a collaboration with the local government in the province or maybe in the city or maybe in the regency level. But in another program or in another project, the ministry or government agency in the national level, they will go to the village government directly and they use a lot of application, web-based, mobile, and something like that. And most of the data actually, when we criticize this scheme, most of the data will be stored and also collected in the data center in the national level. So when we talk about the data sovereignty, in many cases, the local government in the province or district or agency level, they have not much power to keep the data. And of course, in the village government, actually, this has become very important discussion in Indonesia, how the data sovereignty also can be conducted in the local level of the government, also in the village level of the government. And regarding the social protection program, in Indonesia, we have some law, and every law here, it gives like a mandate to collecting the data by the government using information technology. And you can see here in the last point, in 2014, Indonesia have a law concerning village that in this law, villages can have their own authority actually to make a development planning based on the data. That's why the concept of the village information system raised in 2040, especially in the Article 89, the concept of village information system specifically regulated in this law. After that, the village information system mainly used to support the social protection program, especially to collect the data of the population that can be used to target the participant of the social protection program in the local and also in the village level. And until now, you can see here, Indonesia also has a big number of targeted transfer program, because Indonesia is not is not a country with the Indonesia chose to make a social protection program with the targeted program. So we need to identify who is the poor and then how to transfer those to the individual. That's become the reason why the social protection program need a lot of data to be collected and then to be analyzed. These are the list of the program of data collection since 2005, for example, and until now. So you can see here the actors who lead the data collection program in Indonesia and the data that already collected and then published can be used by the ministries of government agency to conduct the social protection program. So you can see the evolution of the program here. And so, yeah, I still have 5 minutes. When the village information system initiative already started, in some regency, my organization combined, since we are the NGO, not the private company who develop software or something like that, but my organization also develop IT solution initiative based on the open source tools. We develop village information system in cooperation with some local government in the regency or district level. How can we use the village information system as a tool to integrate the data that needed by the ministry or the national government agency can be collected, sorted in the local level of the government, because in every local government right now, they already have the authority to have the data center. So these are our outcome, our implementation program that can integrate some data set that published by the ministry or central government agency. Based on this initiative, we can make sure that the local government can have the data, so they can make like a integrated data initiative with the interoperable scheme. So the last 3 minutes, I will share you how this model actually can be analyzed if we would like to replicate this initiative to another region in Indonesia, for example. So I will refer to the concept that formulated by these scholars about the data governance model. There are some data governance model in this research, and I seen that village information system can be implemented as the public data trust. Here we can see that public data trust concept can coordinate the role of its actor, not only in the government agency but also with another actors like NGOs, the community member, and also the trustee forum in the local government level. This is my last slide. This is the model that we propose if the model of village information system implementation will be replicated in another area, not only in Indonesia, maybe in another country as well, how the public data trust principle can be used as the basic model to make the coordination between the actors here, the local government agency actors, the village government actors, and also another GSO, maybe also the corporate and the initiator, the platform developer, something like that, in one forum. So this model actually I hope this model can answer the challenges, how the datafication can be discussed more, and we can looking for any solution through this forum based on the vision and on also the strategy of the One Data policy in Indonesia. So yeah, that's it. Oh, there is a question. Okay.
There's a question from an online participant. This is from Samik Karel. The question is, what's the process like for data collection? Do they sign a consent form? Do they pay people for their data? How long are these data stored? What's the accountability for these public data?
Okay. Yeah. So there are some scheme or also methods to on the data collecting program in Indonesia. Every ministry have their own scheme and also methodology, and yeah, some of them with the participatory methods. So the committee member in the village level also can participate to collecting the data. So, but except beside the national government agency, the local government also can conduct their data collecting program. And if they have a budget, they can make a participatory planning also with the data collecting program, with the participation with the committee member. And the village government also have their own budget. If they would like to make their own data collecting program for their village planning in the village level, they also can use their budget actually in collaboration with NGO or with the universities and sometimes with the private sector as well. So I think a lot of scheme that can be done. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next in the same room, our third showcase is the Be Safe project.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Is Mr. Farooq there?
I can see we have very little time, actually. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Farooq Faisal, and I'm the regional director for South Asia of an international human rights organization called Article 19. Our headquarters is in London, but I am based in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And a big work that we do is mainly in the digital sphere, and that's what brings me here. And in next 20 minutes, we'll try our best to introduce you to Be Safe project. And this is a mix of hybrid and on-site person. I have three online presenter, actually the creator of this project. And I also have one speaker beside me. I will introduce them one by one. But I think it will be easier to introduce the main theme, the Be Safe project. And I will introduce Sagarika. Sagarika Vikrama Sakera is the co-founder of Lanka School of Internet Governance, Board of Trustee of Internet Society's Secretary, APSIG, Advisory Board member of EXCO, member, APNG, XCO member of DCLK, past president of ISOC, Sri Lankan chapter, past vice president LKNOG, and advisory board member of Linking. Today is based in Sri Lanka. So I will request Sagarika to briefly let us know why you are proposing this application and what is Be Safe to Home. Can you please?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So it's thank you, everyone, for us to give this opportunity. So basically, why Be Safe? So at this digital inclusive world, so without knowing, part of our community is left behind. So we wanted to address that issue, like specifically persons with disabilities. They're left behind at the disastrous time. So we wanted to address that issue. So we have decided on 6 main points. One is accessibility. So we wanted to make sure that everyone can access the benefit from the same services, information, and opportunities as those without disabilities. And the independence, specifically speaking, being a woman in the Asia Pacific sector, so we have so many barriers. But being a woman with disability, it will be doubled or tripled. So to So we want women to be independent. To address that independent issue, we wanted to empower women with disabilities to be more independent in their daily lives, rather than be depending on somebody else to each and every task they are doing. And also the inclusiveness. So we wanted to promote social inclusiveness by reducing barriers. And secondly, on the other hand, we wanted to provide assistance. So like in basic day-to-day routines, so we will rely on other people to get the assistance. So if we are providing helpline for women rather than depending on the third party, which is more, sometimes they will be put them in a more disastrous situation, like when we are seeking for assistance. So if we can provide the helpline for women with disabilities through the mobile app. And the other thing is the communication. So we will be able to provide the communication aids, and also more like prominently emergency situation, like in 2004 tsunami in Sri Lanka, there were many people with disabilities were left behind. They have no support. They were left behind. They don't know how to get the help. They don't know how to use those devices. So in the emergency situation, if we can provide the mobile app, so then they will make sure they are safe and well. Next slide, please. So as I am saying earlier, the BSAFE project is intended to provide a helpline for women with disabilities through a mobile app. It was designed to connect the relevant authorities to provide numbers through the app, where the human support team will be operated at the back of the helpline 24/365. As I said, it was born because in many disaster situations, women with disabilities are left behind, where they have less opportunities to cry for help. So this app is still in the transition period, where we need more technical support to develop the support line. So I think this will be the time to showcase this product and look for more support and comments. Thank you. I think my good friend Manik will tell you the rest.
Yeah, thank you, Sagarika. This is just an introduction of this software, the application that they're developing, and we'll discuss a little bit more into that. So I'll invite our second presenter, Ms. Monique Gunaratana. She is the co-founder of Lankan School of Internet Governance, manager, specialist training and disability resource center of the Employees Federation of Ceylon, and leading specialist in training, promoting, and developing information technology for persons with disabilities nationally and internationally. So I would like to ask Monica to discuss a little bit more on the difficulties they're facing, especially briefing on the ground reality and on application features a little bit. Monica, can I invite you?
Yes. As Sagarika said, women with disabilities are marginalized. One, being a woman. Two, being a woman with a disability. And number three, they are not empowered. If they don't get the proper information in accessible format, then they are triple marginalized. So therefore, we decided to develop this app called Be Safe for women with disabilities to be safe in the society. The significance of this app is its inclusivity. An app developed by a person with a disability together with the support of sighted person, because we always say everything should be with us. So inclusivity is also there. So we developed this app in the initial stage to log in with their national identity card in Sri Lanka, because we wanted only women with disabilities to have this be in this use this Be Safe app, because sometimes when other men also get involved, there may be cyberbullying and other harassments as well. So from the national identity card number, we can track whether the person is a man or a woman. So you can put the national ID card number and log in. And the significant is all women with disability, diverse disabilities are included in this app. First, if you are a vision impaired person, you can select vision impaired person and go inside that, because that section is fully accessible for screen reader users. Then, if you are a partially sighted person, you can use the partially sighted section, and it has the screen magnifier. Everything is in large font, bolded, which suits for partially sighted people. Then there is option called for hearing impaired person, because then they can get these services through a sign language interpreter, because hearing impaired persons, they need the sign language interpretation to gather information to call all these hotlines. And in the other category, people with physical disabilities and psychosocial disabilities and all other disabilities come under this category. And when you go inside the app, there are lots of information. If you have cybercrime, cyberbullying, there are numbers where to call. And not only that, if you're on the road, if somebody comes and try to bully you on some other matter, because if you're on the road, you will not remember any of the numbers and you will not have any number in hand. But if you go through this Be Safe app, you can call any emergency number, the police stations, where to call for help, any other platforms, everything is available there. And we have information especially for women specific issues. Women development officers are there registered, and also especially we in Sri Lanka we call the public health midwives. They are the people who deal with pregnant women. So for pregnant women with disabilities to get the information, and when they are pregnant and to get other services, these contacts, the numbers, who is responsible in your area is all the information is there. So people with disabilities are marginalized because information in accessible methods are not available. So this Be Safe app, the significant is it provides information in accessible format. Therefore, all women with disabilities are included in the society and to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Manika. Thank you for telling us about the application a little bit more. We are almost going towards the end of this session, but I have another guest online. He is Kasun Tharaka Vikrama Suraya. He is co-founder of Lankan School of Internet Governance, Senior Manager of Capacity Building for the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, and former Secretary of the Internet School, so in Internet Society in Sri Lankan chapter. And he has many more credibility, but I will request him to talk a little bit more on how to spread this further in that sense, and what kind of difficulties you are also facing.
Okay, thank you, Farik. Thank you, Farooq. Hope you all can hear me. So, in the case, when we are talking about the citizen with disabilities, specifically for the women for the disabilities, in Sri Lanka, there are 22 million population in here. Then almost 75%, that means roughly 1.6 million are citizens with disabilities. It's including physical disabilities, then hearing disabilities, those kind of stuff are there. So out of that, that means around 57% are women with disabilities. So in not only in Sri Lanka, all over the world, the citizen with disabilities are considered as a marginalized community. So we are focusing that group. So our target is disseminate this knowledge to all the districts in the country. So through these communication channels and the community networks. So in this, just talking about the adoption process. Now you can see how we adopt this how we adopt this Be Safe application to the community. So person with themselves tested by this Be Safe applications, around 100 and 200 people. So in here you can see the people with disabilities, how they are using the application, mobile application. So our plan is to spread this promote this to all the 25 districts in Sri Lanka. So we are planning to use social services officer support and the community engagement. and all other people support to disseminate to the help to our people with disabilities, mostly the women. So the adoption process, we are facing different kind of challenges, several challenges. One thing is access to the technology. That means all of us know the price of the devices with the accessible technologies are very high. That's the very first challenge we have identified. Second thing is digital literacy. In Sri Lanka, the literacy is around 92%, and the digital literacy in Sri Lanka is around 60. So we have to fill that gap to disseminate this knowledge, digital literacy. Thirdly, language barriers. Currently, this is support for the English and Sinhala, so we have to convert support to the other languages as well. And the financial constraints are, we have identified another challenge when we are adopting this to the all over the country, and the infrastructure facilities are there, and trust and securities. So we have to encourage our people to use this application and enhance their trust about this application and these technological services for the disability peoples. And the socio-economic inequalities there, and the adoption channels. It's another challenge we have identified. So we are looking for your support to adopt this one to all the people in the Sri Lanka, not only in the Sri Lanka. So all over the world, we are focusing your technical support, technical consultancy, then adoption support. And also we are request your guidance to how to improve. What are the new things we have to add to this application? And if you can provide some financial support, those countries we are looking for. Thank you very much for this, for the participation. So over to you, Farooq.
Yeah, thank you, Kasun. And thank you, Sagarika, Monique, and Kasun. I wish you were here. And it's very nice to hear your voice. I'm glad that at least physically, I have a friend sitting beside me, Dr. Mohammad Sabbir. He's a member of ISOC Board of Trustees, founding president of the ISOC Accessibility Special Interest Group, now converted to ISOC Standing Group on Accessibility. He's a member, board of director of the ISOC Pakistan Islamabad chapter. I would like to ask you a little bit beyond Sri Lanka. What is your suggestion for a way forward, and how to include these into other countries as well? We only have 2 minutes in our hand.
Thank you very much, Farooq, for this very elaborative introduction. Just a small correction that I used to be the board member of the Internet Society, which my term finished in June. So with the consciousness of time factor running against us, I would just say that we have heard the wonderful features and the possibilities that this wonderful project has. I would not call it just an application. It has features that go, and it has facilities that go just beyond what a mere application on your mobile device can provide. Coming from that region, I know that how much women with disabilities could be marginalized. They are at the very least double marginalized, and sometimes in some cases thrice marginalized as well. Without going into that discussion, I would say that this is a project that could provide, if not all, but some of the solutions to their problems. How can we extend this beyond Sri Lanka is a crucial question, and my suggestion there would be to introduce this project is in forums like this. It's a wonderful effort by the organizers, by the developers of the app and the organizers of APrIGF, that we are talking about this project in this very forum. So these forums could be one of the best platforms to discuss these applications, to let everybody know that yes, these kind of applications are there. If the government's institutions, they take interest into these, they can go into different countries. Related to that is the introduction of this application to the ISOC chapters. I know the team very well, Manik, Sagarika, Kasim, that they have connections with the Internet Society chapters. So they can come in. There is funding available with the Internet Society that can be opted to motivate different organizations, systems, governments in the region and beyond to bring that app to those countries. And last but not the least, there are other organizations that can provide support to these kind of projects, such as representative of Article 19 sitting right beside me, Mr. Farooq and his organization, Article 19. They can come in, they have seen the features of this application, and I'm sure their management would be interested that this kind of projects, they are available. And if given the time and resources spent on these kind of projects, they could be expanded to other countries and regions. Farooq, I hope I am well within my time limit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that we crossed the limit that we had, but so we have to. Okay.
We have a question from a remote hub, actually, from KDU Sri Lanka local hub, Nirosha. Her comment and question is, thank you for presenting this wonderful project. What are the problems and issues when you are developing this project? Can you introduce beyond Sri Lanka? And is there any limitations that you have taken to implement this in other countries?
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Anybody from Sri Lanka would like to answer this question?
Okay,
please.
I think Manik, you can answer the very first questions. That means what are the challenges you have faced when you are developing this mobile application? Secondly, I will explain what are the challenges we have to introduce this application to the other countries. Over to Manik.
Yes, challenges because women with disabilities themselves tested and gave their ideas on how to improve it. So thereby we have been developing according to their comments. So we need the technical support, and also it's not just a project, it will finish in 1 or 2 months. It has to continue for the next few years, so many years. So we need the developer support, the financial support, and also, it has to continue. It's not just that we can make it and just finish it off, because these apps, mobile apps, should develop, because the screen readers will get updated, screen magnifiers will get updated. So it should be in the process. And also making this app was very difficult because it has to be accessible for women with diverse disabilities. So because the time is very short, those were the difficulties that we faced, and we need to continue this for the next years to come, because women with disabilities will be safe in the society.
Okay. Thank you very much. I know 20 minutes is not enough to discuss something very important like this, but we are really glad that we got this 20 minutes, and we are very thankful to the Asia Pacific Regional IGF. And I also like to thank the panelists and the technicians who helped us, and the moderator here who helped me, and you all who sat down here to listen to that. Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, my name's David from APrIGF. Thank you very much for sharing the features of this app. I'd just like to know what interest you've had from other donors with respect to the prototype you've got and rolling it out, because funding is really important if you want to replicate it, I guess. Also, what do you predict the adoption rate would be, given all the challenges you've had in communities? And just also the accessibility features that you've got. I think you've discussed very briefly, but I'd be just interested to know bit more detail about those accessibility features. Thank you.
Anyone from Sri Lanka would like to answer? I have one line also to add to this because of the donor issue.
Hello, am I
Yes.
audible? Yeah, this is Sagarika from Sri Lanka. So we have a lot of issues in like getting funding, donor issues, right? So like at the moment we were like, so as we planned, we were unable to go. Like still, it's not supporting the iOS. Only for the Androids we were able to develop. So we need to like diverse, different instruments to be adopted in this with this software, and as well as the funding issues. Like we have been trying for last 2 years to get more funding to develop more accessible as Be Safe app, but still we were unable to do that because the development cost is very high, and also the other technical problems, kind of like people who are specifically dealing with like using this app, they do have to have the more technical training on this, or like we need to train the trainers in the regional level, as well as the domestic level. So those are the main challenges we are focusing, but we do need to have more funding for that. So that's one of the challenges.
Thank you very much. Is there any more question? Like we have to finish it, I think. Yeah. My last line is that I'm doing this development work for last 30, 35 years. Fundraising itself is a science more than the developing a software. So there has to be a strategy. And I have my colleague Rubki Farhana with me here. And we have lots of interest in Sri Lanka and South Asian countries. So I hope we can continue this discussion, and we continue this issue to draw attention of the donor and other bigger multilateral companies so that they understand the importance of this kind of initiatives. I would like to thank you very much, you all. Thank you and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for a wonderful session. Please do remember to highlight the issues in comment.aprigf.asia. Everybody who's in this room, please don't leave because the next section might be of interest to you, especially since you've stayed for this one. Up next in the same room is disability and digital self-determination. What is the missing link? So please do stay if you are interested in this.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. So it's a series of questions.
Hi, are we audible?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Vashkar. I'm just trying to figure out who will be supporting us there. Is Gunela here?
Recording in progress.
I recognize your voice.
I think Gunala is here.
Hi, Gunala.
Yeah.
We can't see you though.
Yeah.
Just give it a minute.
No, what's happening is the
Maybe she's not listening us.
Speakers is actually the workshop organizer. We'll introduce the topic. So I'll start by saying, you know, Debarati Das is going to speak, and then she will do the intros, context. Then I'll be asking the questions of the panelists who are all online. So I wanted to ask you, when it because I thought I would be checking the online, the chat and so forth. I saw that you're doing that, are you?
If you're
For
already
questions?
there, you're more comfortable, please go ahead and do that. But if
Yeah.
you would like me to, of course.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's up to you, whatever works with you.
Okay, I'm sort of geared up to do it, so that should be,
And I'll let you drive then.
that should be fine.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we should get started, I think. Yeah.
Are we audible on site? I'm not sure if people on site can hear us.
I believe Gunala is not listening us.
Yeah.
Can you text her?
I have messaged the secretariat.
And also write that Gunala.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session on disability and digital self-determination. What's the missing link? And I think this should be quite an exciting session. It's we hear about disability accessibility, but this is looking at it in a much broader sense. And I will be moderating this. I'm Gunala Asprink, but the workshop organizer is Debarati Das, who will give the introductions and the context, and then I will be moderating the remote speakers and people here in the room. So I'm looking forward to this exciting session, and I will hand now over to Debarati Das. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gunala. Just wanted to check if we are audible on site.
Yes, yes, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So, hello everybody. I'm Debarati from Point of View India, and we welcome you to our session, Disability and Digital Self-Determination, What's the Missing Link? So to give you some context, earlier this year, we hosted a series of 4 studios that unpacked several questions on what self-determination can look like in digital spaces for persons with disabilities. And in these studios with persons with disabilities, technologists, and policy experts, we unpack the question of accessibility and beyond. Who are we as digital beings? How do we reimagine human autonomy and agency in the age of growing digital footprints? And how can people with disabilities and communities have more autonomy in cyberspace when today our data is an extension of ourselves? In today's panel discussion, we will further explore and reimagine digital accessibility for persons with disabilities to also include agency, autonomy, choice, freedom, and rights. Before I introduce our speakers, a couple of housekeeping tips. Our online participants, you can use chat to ask your questions and to share your thoughts. And we also have a Q&A session for the last segment, which is when we'll take questions and reflections, both online and on site. Also, closed captions are enabled, so you can use them as needed on the meeting platform, as well as it's on the screen on site, I believe. With this, I welcome our speakers. Dr. Nirmita Narasimhan is a founding member of the research organization Center for Internet and Society, where she has built the Accessibility and Inclusion Program on digital accessibility. Nirmita is also an expert in policymaking for multi-stakeholder groups and digital inclusion for persons with disabilities. She has served on the government committee to draft the national policy on universal electronics accessibility, the committee to revise the guidelines for Indian government websites, and has also been involved in drafting of key ICT accessibility policies for the Indian government and other countries. Welcome, Nirmita. Abia Akram from Pakistan is the founder of the National Forum of Women with Disabilities and a leading figure in the disability rights movement in Pakistan and the Asia Pacific. Abia was named one of the BBC's 100 Women in 2021 and is a founding member and coordinator of the Special Talent Exchange Program and the Asia Pacific Women with Disabilities United. Abia chairs the UNICEF Global Partnership for Children with Disabilities and the Women's Coordinator of Disabled Peoples International in the Asia Pacific, and was the first woman from Pakistan and the first woman with disability to be nominated to Commonwealth Young Disabled Peoples Forum's coordinator. Welcome, Abia. Our next speaker is Vashkar Bhattacharjee. Vashkar is a person with visual disability and serves as the National Accessibility Consultant for the A2I program of the ICT division of the Bangladesh government. Vashkar works to foster the development of ideas that empower people with disabilities and are later scaled up and made accessible to everyone. His current priority is creating an inclusive university at the University of Chittagong, and he brings deep experience in the intersections of digital accessibility and disability rights and justice. Welcome, Vashkar. I'm pleased to have with us also Srinidhi Raghavan from Rising Flame India. Srinidhi is a disabled feminist writer, researcher, and educator, and works at the intersections of sexuality, gender, disability, and technology. Srinidhi co-leads programs at Rising Flame, and her work focuses on deepening conversations around sexuality, on rights of persons with disabilities, and building more spaces where disabled people can thrive. Welcome, Srinidhi. Our moderator today is Gunilla Aspring. Gunilla has been active in the disability policy programs and research for 30 years and is the chair of the Internet Society's Accessibility Standing Group, initiating a project on disability leadership training in internet governance and digital rights. Gunilla is a member of the APrIGF MSG and has served on the UN's Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, and is also the vice chair of ICANN's Asia Pacific Regional At-Large Organization. Thank you everyone for joining us, and over to you, Gunilla, to take the conversation ahead.
Thank you very much, Debarati. And again, thank you for the panelists. I wish you were sitting next to me here, but I think we're doing really well remotely too. So we have some good questions, and what I'll do is direct the questions initially to one of the panelists, and then ask if there were any additional comments, and I'll go through each of the panelists, and then we'll finish off with a question that I'm very keen to hear from all of you. So the first question relates to what would you like to share when it comes to experiences and anecdotes on what it means to have autonomy and choice over one's digital self? How does this resonate with disability rights and justice? So I'll ask Srinidhi to start the ball rolling, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you, Srinidhi.
Thank you so much, Gunilla. I mean, I think when we think about autonomy, choice, and agency, I think they're all integral parts of disability rights and justice, right? And so when it extends to the digital self, in many ways, it is the same as I mean, these ideas remain the same, whether it is in the digital space or in the physical space, you know. And I think one of the things when you think about disability rights and justice with regards to persons with disabilities in particular, I think thinking about ownership of digital devices, of being able to access online spaces in many different ways, and having the sort of choice of using and experiencing digital spaces like non-disabled people would experience it, without having to wonder or consider about whether it is accessible, whether the information is catered to them, whether this is, I mean, without having to juggle through multiple what ifs or what are the possibilities. I think it would be so in many ways, autonomy, choice, and agency is an integral part of disability rights and justice. So definitely needs to be present in many ways in the digital space as well. And because the digital space is in so many ways connected to our physical space, and it is not just an isolated experience, it's connected to our mobility, to financial independence, to increase in access to information. And in many ways, these variety of how we experience the world is connected to our digital self. It becomes more important than ever that autonomy and agency are possibilities for disabled folks.
Thank you. Some very important points there. Disability rights exist everywhere. And I wondered if any of the other panelists wanted to make a comment on that before we move on to the next question.
If you allow me, Gunilla, my name is Bhaskar Bhattacharjee.
Please go ahead, Bhaskar.
I just would like to stress four very important points, like in this aspect. One is that accessibility for people with disabilities. We always talking about that, and we sometimes forgot there is beyond accessibility rights exist for people with disabilities. Whenever we talked about the digitalization, then we always talked about accessibility, which are very important, which really restrict us to access digital technology. Secondly, I would like to stress about the awareness. People with disabilities are not really aware regarding their rights in the digital space. That's another bigger challenge for us to aware the people with disabilities. Even they are not talking about the digital inclusion and zero digital divide related issues. OPDs and Organization of Persons with Disabilities are sometimes reluctant in our region regarding these issues. Third point is that affordability. People with disabilities always live in under the poverty line, so they don't able to afford the technology such as a smartphone, computer, or any other devices. Lastly, the connectivity. Again, there's issues of cost and also the devices. Connectivity, as we don't have connectivity, then how we can get the autonomy in the digital space or self-determination is a secondary part. Lastly, people with disabilities has a diverse types of needs, and we sometimes forgot about the most vulnerable groups such as neurodevelopment disabilities, women with disabilities, multiple disabilities. That's really important to discuss and bring these issues in the front line. I'm not sure how much discussion is going around us in the APrIGF regarding these vulnerable communities. Thank you, Gunilla.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar. And Abia, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for in having us in this important discussion today. And we all know, like, it's a huge digital divide that exists in the global south, and particularly if you talk about the Asia Pacific region, that we have seen that mostly digital access, people called it as a luxury, but for persons with disabilities, it's a need. And how we making sure that this digital divide can bridge that gap. And secondly, when you talk about the choice, autonomy, and your justice to the digital life, that is a huge question again, because if you provide them the accessibility, there is no like further access to the security, how we are collecting the data on the digitalized world. And again, it's a long debate for women and girls with disabilities on their personal choice, because we are going to a very like complicated kind of processes where we are training them how to use the digital technology, how to access to those services which are accessible for them. And at the same time, we are telling them like it's important to talk about the serious kind of issues of the gender-based violence or all those kind of like access to services. So where that this gap and the choice and autonomy, this needs to be addressed in a systematic way, and that we will share further in the conversation. Like there are a few stories from the regional perspective as well where we can connect this and can share. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There are so many points to ponder when it comes to the various gaps we have and how to meet those. And actually, the next question is for you, Avia, in regard to in your work, how have you engaged with the issue of accessibility and holistic digital experiences for persons with diverse disabilities? Could be physical, it could be psychosocial, and many others. So could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, thank you. I would say again, like it's a 10 to 15% of the total population are person with disability. 50% of them are women and girls with disability. Again, the challenge, like more than 80% are from the rural areas where they have very limited access to the internet. So when just recently, I could share one example of the COVID. Like after the COVID, it was extremely difficult to reach out to those persons with disabilities. Without technology, it was not possible. So what we did, like we conducted the survey, we reach out to the families who have even access to a smaller smartphone, and we can just talk to those women and girls with disability. We provided them the psychosocial support online and linked them with the service providers like police department, medical, legal, all those systems who are responsive to the needs of women and girls with disability. The difficult part was to reach out to the psychosocial support workers, to all those women and girls with disabilities who were not having access to the internet. And that was the point where we just like started some training, some government response on that, some advocacy we have done. So it was like kind of a parallel approach to bring the systematic change in the policies, in the legislation, and at the same time creating that safe space, digitalized safe space for women and girls with disability. So we generated all the ethical guidelines where if you're using the data or the internet or access to the digitalized services, you have to keep that certain ethical guidelines in your processes to secure the data of those who are responding online calls and all. Secondly, just recently, another example, like in the flood response, we had a huge disaster in Pakistan. And that was again a like problem to reach out to those persons with disabilities who lost their assistive devices, who lost their services. So we provided them the access again to the like digitalized world technology. We used that, and we like provided the mobile application, which was like easy to just notify where they are, or if they have any kind of like resources, then we can reach out to them and rescue those persons with disabilities who were sitting on the rooftop of the house, because that was the only place they can reach when they have to inform the families, and also there's somebody put them on the rooftop. So these kind of like support system, we can use the technology in a very productive way, but again it's a question
question of the safety, it's a question of the access and affordability. As my colleague have already mentioned, it's about allocations of the budget, because if you don't have the specific budgetary allocation from the finance ministry, from the government, from the state, then you cannot use properly the utilization of the technology. And we are coming to the next point of the artificial intelligence as well. So that will come in a further discussion, I think, that how these services can change the whole life of persons with disability. Thank you.
Thank you. There are so many important points there that's covered. And I just wanted to reference a previous session to this one about a new tool in Sri Lanka. Well, it's been developed for a few years called Be Safe for women with disabilities. And one of the, and that's linking with a lot of government services, protection if someone has feels harassed. It's also in regard to disaster preparedness and support. But the funding is running out. There's need for more funding for tech support and to develop it further. So there's always this issue. So I'm going to continue and with the next question for Nirmita, and this is about our digital footprints growing. And as part of that, a person's data is an extension of themselves. And in the digital space, what does this mean for persons with disability? What are some privacy?
Audio now unmuted alert. Space. Mute.
And some data and some database concerns. And Nimita, if you have any strategies to respond to these would be great. And any particular experiences or stories in your community, we would love to hear them.
Sure. So I think we have concerns regarding, when we are unable to access technologies or content. I think that is when concerns emerge, right? And that could be because of various reasons. Usually, a lot of the times it's because of inaccessibility. When we are unable to access websites or applications, we're unable to access technologies. And that is one reason straight away when we have concerns. There are also the other situations when we are, finding language really complex, or we are not given choices. For example, you click on a box appears, and
has joined the meeting alert.
If you do not want to agree, but you do not find the button using a screen reader of say, no, I don't want to agree, I just want to continue. And sometimes that option is not available for a screen reader user. It just says, I agree or continue button. And a lot of times the license terms or privacy terms, they're not easily understandable to people. Maybe people do not understand English so well, or the language is really complex. So there are just so many reasons, and why it could be problematic. For example, in India, one time when I find it really difficult is with digital payments, and we have a card machine now which is completely touch screen, and I'm not able to input the PIN. So every time I either need to have India is becoming completely digital currency. We don't have even notes, so it's very less. So these kind of situations come when we have concerns. Strategies, I would say, of course, we have to implement accessibility everywhere, and that would eliminate some of challenges. Concerted effort to ensure that language is simple, people have an option, an alternate method of accessing things. They are made aware of what they're accessing and how to exercise their choices. I think more people with disabilities who are involved in advising or guiding, consumer, services or digital services and products. I think that would really help to improve services and increase the number of people who are able to access technologies and content on the internet. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other yes, Srinidhi, did you want to make a comment about that?
Yeah. I just wanted to add to what Nirmita was saying. I think also that some of the concerns of some of the offline concerns that exist around privacy and around privacy also replicate themselves online, right? So if the situation is inaccessible, then like Nirmita was sharing about the payment machine, it means you have to give your PIN out to somebody else in order for the PIN to be used and for you to use money in your bank account, right? So in many ways, this allows for many violations that happen, right? Like even if you look at all the two-factor authentications that happen with many websites when you get locked out, etc. Often the OTP comes for like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and you have to input that by the time it finishes. So our very understanding of privacy and protection and safety and security is seen from a non-disabled lens, right? So you need to enter an OTP in 15 seconds. That's not necessarily a space at which the screen reader can go from one application to another. Then you have to have somebody else input the OTP for you, right? So these many ways in which privacy is violated by accessibility being violated. Right. And I think that because of the very real concerns around inaccess that exists around many digital platforms and spaces, we aren't often talking about the data-based concerns in the disability community. We're not thinking about what happens to all the, recently I saw some news about how the auto captions is being used to generate better, is being used by Zoom within Otter, right? And we all use auto captions because it makes it more accessible, right? But we're not having that conversation because it's not a possibility for us to say, oh, we will not use auto captions, right? Because for many people in the global south, having access to captioners who are physically present is often very difficult to do. It's too expensive. So we use auto captions as a way to make our rooms accessible, but in many ways we aren't talking about what is the privacy violation there that we don't know about, or that we aren't asking the questions because it's a need for us that we cannot dismiss, right? So I think the data and privacy concerns often take a secondary step because we are so focused on bringing disabled people to the table, bringing access to disabled people, having them use these technologies to benefit from these technologies, etc.
So I just had one more thing to add, if I may. I think the question is not just so simple as, what works or doesn't work for everyone. So while you do not want to give out data, you have concerns. At the same time, for some people, it may work to have your preferences recorded to ensure that you get services, right? So it's not, I think it's more about, it's not a one size fits all. Some people, like I said, so it has to be some kind of customized, or there should be some option for people to be able to exercise what they want. Some people would like people to know, okay, I'm entering with a screen reader and automatically, I should have screen reader enabled, say kind of a website, and some people may not want to give out that information. So I just think it's not so straightforward to answer.
Everyone is an individual. I think it just comes down to that, and that everyone needs to have the choice to use technology in the way that best suits them. Any other comments about this before we move on to the next question? Thank you, Dr. Shabir, but we're going to take questions from the audience later. So I'll just stick with the panel for now. And Abhyar and Bhaskar, do you have any further comments about this particular aspect?
I was just thinking, what is the meaning of UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities? What is the meaning of UN Disability Inclusion Strategy? What is the meaning of Marrakesh VIP Treaty? If people with disabilities are not really enjoy their rights equal basis with others, who can answer us? Who will take the responsibility? A state party like our region or many other countries are reluctant to implement this global commitment. Hence, people with disabilities really excluded and create huge digital divide. And we are losing our autonomy, choice, and freedom. That's my comment.
Yes, and we have to make sure that whatever happens, that that doesn't occur. Abia, any comments about this question?
Just quickly on that, like we also see that data, and I completely agree with my fellow panelists, like this is about your autonomy. But again, like when we talk about the electoral reforms and the processes, like the choice of casting the vote, and all those are not possible without access to the digitalized world. And then the same time, when we talk about the data and the segregation of the data, that helps a lot. But again, when we were having the census and all, I'll talk more about the Asia Pacific region, or many of the countries were facing the same challenge, like in collecting the data and like dividing in the desegregation of the data. Is that's really hard to provide that kind of like access to the resources and for the using of that data. The protection as a human right defenders as well, that's very important. Like when we talk about the our rights, our demands on the world, we are using technology as a tool for advocacy in like most of the platforms, social media platform, digitalized program. And then we feel like it's really like giving us the threats, it's giving us more responsibility to keep the protection of the organization, protection of our demands, and then on the network. So these are the things which are coming up as a safe and providing that kind of space for them.
All right, we're actually going to move to something positive and where we can use our imaginations. So I'm going to ask Bhaskar for a start. So what is your imagination of digital tech that works for all? Can you share any examples of digital tech and innovation that provides accessible, safe, joyful user experience? Things that are great and fun. And then say, what are some of the limitations in building and implementing these technologies? But let's look at how we can really enjoy technology and dream and have something exciting to look forward to. Bhaskar.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Very nice questions. I would like to share one of my personal experience. Since my educational journey, I never ever got an accessible book, even not in schools, college, or university. Just listen some audio. My mother read for me, my father read for me, my friends and teachers help me. Just listening the books. When my daughter was in grade 1 and she can see, she always came to me and asked me to read her book. I really failed to read because I can't see. And she didn't really realize that her father is blind, he cannot read book. In the time, I thought, could I innovate something which is accessible for all, including my daughters and any other parents, students of blindness and other disabilities. Since then, we can bring this idea to the Service Innovation Fund of the A2I. It's called a special program. In that time, it was a Prime Minister Office program. And we have given an idea. It's called Multimedia Talking Book. The book can be seen by eye, listened by ear, read by finger. So that book was really a design, a model of universal design. Everybody can read that book without any barrier. And after awarding this book, I was really excited. My daughter can read books by seeing. I can teach her by listening, and any other parents of disability can read this book, listening, seeing, or touching by Braille. Even deafblind people can use this book by using Braille display. And this book can be played by a very minimum cost of player, like $2 MP3 player, a smartphone, tab, computer, whatever device people have, they can use this book. And nowadays, government has scaled up these books, and National Textbook Board, they are providing multimedia talking book freely to all students, including students with disabilities. So this is the best example from Bangladesh. And UNESCO has published a case study on these books in 2021. 2021, yes, how these books are more useful during COVID, because people were unable to carry their printed books in their home because they didn't know that there will be huge lockdown. So these digital books, multimedia talking books, became very popular among the students with disabilities. So that's one of the examples for Bangladesh. I hope people are enjoying reading, and they have an now option to a book in a alternative format. Thank you.
Yes, a wonderful example, a family example. And please, the rest of the group and the panel, do you have any dreams about technology that is enjoyable to use and that we can have in the future?
Yeah. Just quickly to share, because this is really interesting. We also feel the same, like for a person with disabilities, using technology is a dream, already a dream to have access. And they are just like feeling, if we have the availability in the rural areas, in the many of the local areas, then they can bring the huge change in the society. One of the example, like when we given the access to the young people with disabilities to technology, they were easily finding it very easy to get the livelihood opportunities. We talk with the corporate sector, we work with them closely to make their websites accessible and opening those startups online, those applications, mobile applications. And we did an award with the Pakistan Telecommunication Authorities, where they have given a smaller award to the young people, university students, to create that accessible mobile application so that could be used by many of the person with disabilities. So they were coming up with the excellent ideas of sharing that technology, like with one of them was the sign language interpretation that could be available 24/7 in the mobile. So if you are going to the hospital and the doctor cannot sign, then you can just link and the interpreter will come online and they can talk and explain to the doctor, and then you can easily access. Same was for the hospitals, for police stations, for all those departments, and even in the public places, wherever they go, they just talk to the interpretation is available. Secondly, as I mentioned, like with the corporate sectors, when we changed their systems and made that accessible for young people with disabilities, so they were finding it very useful to get access to the opportunities, to the employments, and then they can, get that job opportunities as well. And now they are sitting in a managerial positions because they made that happen, like by talking to them, by discussing that. And thirdly, just an example of the psychosocial support worker, which I have mentioned. Now it's changing the systems of the government, because government have their own helplines to respond to the needs of the survivors of the gender-based violence or women overall. So we are making their helplines accessible, more responsive to the needs of person with disabilities. And in that way, we are expanding the reach out. I know it took us very long to reach that point, because we have to change the whole strategically, talk to them, policy dialogues we have conducted, consultations with them. We developed the tools to review their accessibility audits of the government provision of the services, the helplines. but it is creating a change. And I feel like we can see these examples as Vashkar have already shared, that these are, we need to develop these think tank and share that more extensively. And I think this is an excellent platform today where we are all sharing our knowledge, but this will create us more opportunities. And now the SDG Summit is coming up. It's a halfway of reaching to the sustainable development goals. So how we address this at this point to make our strategies for the advocacy of access to the digitalized world, access to technology, access to the safe and justified technology. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes. And certainly sharing ideas and stories, and then how we can work together to make change. That's what we're here for. And Srinidhi, would you like to follow up on this about imagining innovative, enjoyable technologies that we can use?
Thank you. I think I was thinking of more everyday technologies that enhance our lives, like even this platform that's making it possible for us to be here. But I think like pre-pandemic, though we were a remote working organization, we didn't necessarily have like in any ways to spend time co-working, etc. But thanks to all the innovation of the pandemic and things getting better and smoother, so many of us now co-work in the digital space, right? Like because we are located in different parts of the world, but it's possible for us to, and I think that there is something joyful about silently working in a digital space with somebody who might be elsewhere in their own house, but remotely to work together and to sort of create a virtual environment for for all the people involved. I think that's very that's something that I feel has been a good innovation that has allowed for joyful experiences. I think in general, one of the things that I was thinking about while others were speaking is also how a lot of innovation that has been made for, say, persons with disabilities or making our lives easier and more accessible, etc. Like, there's multimedia books, and how many other students are also benefiting from them because they find it more engaging, etc. So innovation doesn't always have to be restrictedly used only by the community that it was meant for, and that I think helps us to further imagine other technologies and innovations that will benefit more people. Yeah.
Well, before I pass on to Nimita, I can't resist mentioning that about 25, 30 years ago, there was a very expensive program that cost probably $10,000 for persons with mobility impairments that couldn't use a keyboard. And so it was basically speech to text. And that was designed for persons with disability. And now it's mainstream, everyone uses it. So the disability community and the research community involved with that is very innovative in itself. And these are products that can be eventually used by everyone and become mainstream, mass market. And like we heard about the multimedia talking book. Yes, I think a lot of people would enjoy that. So Nimita, imagine what wonderful technology you would like to see.
So if we are talking about technology for all, it has to be something with multiple ways of communication on both sides, input and output. you have to have the choice to customize it the way you want. I would really like to see a technology which completely overcomes accessibility issues, regardless of how people are designing and developing websites. It doesn't matter. For example, a really small feature of in an iPhone, people keep sending you image files. And now it doesn't really matter because, VoiceOver just describes what is there. So it doesn't matter if other people are creating inaccessible. So until the time that we are able to raise awareness, that is a separate thing we need to do. But we are not limited by other people's failure to conform to accessibility standards. Maybe a lot of people are isolated because of the way they communicate or where they live or how they are. So maybe a kind of technology which has AI and is interactive. The technology probably, which is a one-stop shop. Say I get a medicine delivery and I just point it and it reads out what's there. Yeah, but my concerns also would be that the more you would like to use AI, which you should, it's also a little scary about thinking, if you think about how much AI can kind of take over or catalog your choices and your preferences. So that would be an area where we would need to achieve a balance.
Right. Yes, I like this about we are not limited by others' failures. I like that a lot. So the last question, and before we go to the wider audience, and I'd like just very brief interventions by the panel. And that is, what are some recommendations, policy or otherwise, to create a world where self-determination, accessibility, autonomy for persons with disabilities seem possible and realistic in digital context? Now, we've touched on that in a number of ways, but maybe look at it in the policy context. So if we could just have maybe a minute and a half for each person. Vashka, would you like to start off, please?
Hopefully you can listen me. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Firstly, we like to inform the audience, whenever we unmute ourselves or use, you are getting some noise. That is called screen reading software. I believe Zoom will solve this problem because screen reading software is our eye. Sometimes this noise might be not comfortable, many of you. By today's webinar, I am asking the corporates like Zoom authorities, please ensure that the screen reading voice must not go outside of the device which we are using. This is one. Secondly, policy is very important. We have a global policy such as UNCRPD, UN Disability Inclusion Strategy. We have Marrakesh Treaty for visual blind and visual impaired. So this is very, very important international commitments. And secondly, we have a national level laws and policies, such as many countries, including Bangladesh, have a web accessibility policies. We have a Persons with Disability Rights and Protection Act 2013. We have Neurodevelopment Trust Act. So there is law based on the global policy. Many countries have a local laws. And lastly, the challenge is the implementation. I think in current world, we have enough policy, but the implementation of the policy is almost in 10 to 15%, I can tell you. Because of the lack of implementation of the policies, lack of commitment by the agencies, including UN agencies, I always blame them because these people are creating policies, but they're not really implementing by themselves. This is very important. So policy is there, implementation is very, very poor, loss is there. If some citizen, if they don't get their rights described in the law, they got the justice. People with disabilities are not getting justice because they are unable to go to the justice system. The justice systems are not accessible for them. That's why policies enough policies are there. Now we need the implementation to ensure equal rights for all, including people with disabilities. Thank you.
Yes, yes, implementation, and I think that's a key. Now we are getting tight on time, so are there any additional comments about that particular question about how we move forwards? If not, I'll open it up to the floor.
I think I only had one comment to make. I think that in the last few years, we are seeing more and more disabled people online and on social media and speaking about their concerns, etc. I think one of the things would be interesting for others to also begin to follow the conversations that are happening, to sort of have them in your timelines and in your feeds, right? So that we can learn from experiences already being shared online, which makes it more possible for us to see disabled people as whole, as users of technology, as consumers, etc. So I think that would be something that is not a recommendation as such, but as something that would help us build a more inclusive world.
Indeed, indeed. Any other comments?
Just one thing, I agree with Bhaskar and Srinidhi. I agree that we need implementation. So I just like to add a couple of more keywords of mainstreaming. We should increasingly view accessibility across the entire spectrum of policymaking and prioritization. So these two things are, I feel, lacking. And yeah, I would like to add that to the recommendations.
Thank you. And Abia, you have the last word at this.
No, thank you. I think it's better like we can receive the comments and the questions from the floor and then we can respond. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you. All right. We had before a question from Dr. Shabir. And while he is asking his question, if anyone else in the room or online has a question or a comment, please put up either your virtual hand or your physical hand. I'll hand over to Dr. Shabir to make a comment, please. A mic. Jen, would you be able to do the mic? Is there another mic?
Thank you. Thank you, Gunilla. Thank you very much, Bhaskar and other lady speakers who have been talking to. I don't actually have a question, but a comment, rather a response to a comment that one of the speakers made. I don't remember exactly the name, so please pardon you. So the response was, the point was in terms of making and enabling person with disabilities, bringing them to the table, we are somehow compromising other privacy and security concerns. I would respond to this particular aspect, but before I do that, I would also want to point out here that in the name of security, we are also neglecting the needs of person with disabilities. And that is not necessarily due to the lack of the technology or options, but mainly due to the lack of awareness. The one example would be the human testing of using CAPTCHA options in response to filling out some forms. There are multiple options available, but people and organizations still use human CAPTCHAs for testing that whether it is a bot or human accessing their system. While they do that, they forget to give alternate options for people with vision impairment. And this enables them, this leaves them out of their system just because that was not made accessible. There are other options such as audio questions and sometimes some of the websites that require them to enable cookies. While that that could cause other security concerns that I would not go into, but still those cookies, they require that if you want accessibility, you have to enable our cookie into your own system. With regards to the point that was made that while trying to make people with disabilities bring to the table, we are compromising. That's not necessarily because of the requirements of bringing people with disabilities on the table, but mainly due to the lack of the awareness. For instance, human captioning, Zoom captioning is an option which could be used or could not be used. As we use recording and we inform the people and give the consent of the audience, of the participants, that this call maybe is being recorded and you have the option to join or leave. Similarly, the options could be given. This is mainly due to the lack of the awareness on part of different people, and also not talking to the relevant people with disabilities that what could be the options there. Certainly, I know there is a very large community of people with disabilities, particularly hard of hearing, who hate this AI generated auto captioning. As person with vision impairment myself, I also have experienced some of the auto captions to the images that people have started using in their presentations and email pictures that they send to others. And I can testify to the fact that very funny captions are being generated. Without going into that discussion, I would just say that people need to talk to the person with disabilities. As I said yesterday, often quoted statement, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did we want to take that question as well?
Hi, my name is Bikalpa. I just have a quick comment as well. I think, as one of the speakers pointed out, one of the main issues with policy with people with disabilities is that sometimes I feel like it's not prioritized as much as it should have. As a person with disability, I'd like to thank and congratulate you all for your persistent efforts to making this an issue. One of the things that many other people forget that is, living with disability, it not only affects, it's not a matter of choice. It's not something that, I would wish, but it is something that I would actually need. And I think that should be enough to justify the amount of policy consideration that is needed. And by that, I mean, it should be able to put this issue in one of the top policy priorities. But then when we're talking about policy priorities, I hear a lot of projects, but then disability comes at the bottom of the many projects. So I'm just wondering if there's any solution to this or how this can be solved. Thank you.
That's such a good question, and I wish there was a very good answer. We have 1 minute left, and that sort of discussion we can have afterwards. But we need to continue. We need to continue raising these issues in plenary sessions, in any fora that we can. And for example, Dr. Shabir was in the opening plenary of APrIGF, and that's the sort of thing to have that impact, and we need to keep on doing that. So that's my personal thoughts, and so I need to now wrap up and say thank you very much to the panelists, and especially to Debarati Das of Point of View, who initiated this workshop session. I think it has created some very interesting and innovative thinking that we need to take away from this room and continue talking about, sharing with others, presenting it at other fora, and creating projects out of it and making a difference. So Debarati, would you like to just say a few final words before we wrap up?
Thank you so much, speakers, for sharing your reflections. It's been an enriching conversation. And there's really so many things to consider, like when we talk about accessibility, thinking about the use aspect of technologies, and also like going beyond that and thinking about agency, choice, privacy, and digital tech, and what these can mean in so many diverse contexts. So thank you very much. And many thanks to Gunella for holding this space so beautifully. And thank you, my colleague Shazia as well, for documenting the session, and everybody in the audience for participating. We hope to catch you in other sessions as well.
Audio now unmuted alert. Space. Mute. Current.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
See
Thank
you
you.
again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the panelists and Debarati again, and Point of View staff and the audience here in the room and online. And we'll finish off there, but that doesn't mean we finish a conversation. We keep the ideas going. Thank you. I turned it off.